Our television camera crews, undercover of course, attended a mass wedding where 300 homosexual couples were married. 300 homosexual couples were married. And then there were topless dykes who were marching up and down the streets. And then there were the transsexuals and the transvestites. And then there were the bisexuals. It was a display of a modern day Sodom and Gomorrah with a blessing, God have mercy, the blessing of the White House. The week prior to the march, for the first time in American history, the President of the United States met in the White House with representatives of the gay and lesbian community and the bisexuals and all the moral perverts who planned this march of the Sodomites. The President sat down with them, met with them, promised his support. A letter was read during the march from the President. I listened, I'm sure you did, supporting them and promising them his support in guaranteeing bona fide minority status for the gays and lesbians of America. When we see the hundreds of thousands of moral perverts marching and demonstrating and holding up their vulgar and vile signs and declaring who they are and what they're going to do and what they want to do and how they want to live, that doesn't make it right. Now, while there's only about 1% or less homosexual population in this country, if they were 50%, we still have to cry out against it.
You are watching President Bill Clinton's inaugural day parade as our cameras went behind the scenes, undercover. On the surface, we found things looking rather normal. Americans lined the streets hoping to catch a glimpse of the new president. They cheered as the military bands played, and they waved American flags as the armed forces marched past them. The children especially seemed to love the floats. But for the first time in the history of America, the radical gay community was out in force, not as outsiders to protest, but rather to celebrate. Radical homosexual groups like Queer Nation were present to remind their heroes, Bill and Hillary Clinton, that they must now keep their campaign promises to the gay community.
For the gay community, Clinton has promised that he would give us the recognition that we've deserved for so long. He's promised that he would repeal the ban on homosexuals in the military. He's promised increased funding on AIDS.
Well, we organized this little lesbian gay visibility action. We wanted to make sure that Clinton knew that not only had we helped get him elected, but that we were here in Washington to watch the progress of his administration, to support him and encourage him to live up to his words that we are part of we are part of the American family.
We want to feel involved in what's going on. We believe in the new administration, and we want to support it. We cannot stay home and let this go on without us.
Clinton has the opportunity to lead Congress in passing federal civil rights protections for all lesbian and gay men.
We're celebrating the election of Bill Clinton, President of the United States, because this is the election of our lives. It's been said before, and we're just thrilled that he's been elected.
Mr. Clinton is committed to doing things like ending the discrimination against lesbian and gay people in the military, looking at the possibility of an executive order to outlaw discrimination based on sexual orientation in the federal government.
One of the final floats in the inaugural parade was virtually ignored by the news media. It was entitled "The Family of America." On this float, there were various types of American families. Blacks, whites, young, mellow, and for the very first time in a presidential inaugural parade, the homosexual and lesbian couple. Are you wondering why you did not see this on the TV network's coverage of the Clinton inauguration? Our cameras will now take you inside the most unbelievable and first ever official gay and lesbian inaugural ball in the nation's capital. You are looking at footage our camera crews shot incognito. They traveled past the lines outside where gay people waited to enter the first ever official gay and lesbian inaugural ball in Washington, D.C. Before our cameras went inside with them, we asked a number of the gay community why they were here in Washington to celebrate Bill Clinton's inauguration.
Well, this event tonight here at Club Z in Washington is one of several events that have been organized by the lesbian and gay community to celebrate the inauguration of a friend. Tonight, we'll have about 2,000 people dancing until 2 a.m. in the morning. But it's one part of a whole series of events that lesbian and gay Americans are participating in as part of this incredibly historic inauguration.
Of course, some of our main enemies are Jesse Helms, Santa Meyer, the usual homophobic crowd that's been fighting us for years, and hopefully we'll weed them out eventually, keep their bigotry and hatred down.
To celebrate a change for the country and also a change for gays and lesbians who now have a chance to be part of a wider community, to celebrate the election of a president that cares about issues that are important to me personally and I think are important to most Americans. And it's a kind of an opportunity for us to celebrate as a group of people and be part of it after not being part of it for 12 years.
I think he's going to bring everyone together, and we won't feel as left out as we have before.
I think things can't help but get better than from what we had over the past 12 years, because we have now a president for the first time ever saying that we belong to America, that we are a part of what is this community that we call the United States. He said to us at a meeting in Los Angeles when he was campaigning that he had a vision and that he sees us as a part of that vision.
The band played music as in the other presidential galas. But if you look closely, you will see men dancing with men, women dancing with women. And sometimes you will see species of the human race that you probably had no idea existed. President Clinton and Vice President Gore did not dare appear in person, yet Bill Clinton did appear by way of a giant closed-circuit television screen.
I just want to thank the gay and lesbian community for your courage and your commitment and your service in the face of the terror of AIDS. When no one was offering a helping hand and when it was dark and lonely, you did not withdraw, but instead you reached out to others. And this whole nation has benefited already in ways most people cannot even imagine from the courage and commitment and the sense of community which you practice. It was your community who created the first AIDS service organization. Who did the first important work in pioneering AIDS drugs. Who sounded the alarm and created the first education programs. Who stood strong and fast in the face of all the governmental opposition and discrimination and killing silence. This nation owes you thanks for that, and I want to give you my thanks and my respect for that struggle today.
As I watched the balloons fall and the celebration continue, I could not help but think, has America turned its back on God? Will Bill Clinton turn America into a modern-day Sodom and Gomorrah? Attending this first gay and lesbian inaugural ball were celebrities who have fallen victim to this terrible sin.
The best thing I ever did in my life was come out. This is so high. This is so wow. This is great. We've been to the other balls, and this has got to be beat by a mile. I have to say, my sister Katie Lang has been such an inspiration and such be the greatest thing I've ever seen this year. And I'm proud to say right now, I'm very proud to have been a lesbian all my life.
What American in his wildest imagination could have believed that he would be seeing the gay lifestyle so openly accepted and endorsed by a president of the United States? Let me show you another form of media bias. During the last gay and lesbian march on Washington, the liberal media called attention to the large numbers of gay and lesbians, estimating the crowd to be 1/2 million in number in Washington, D.C. The footage they showed was carefully selected to show the gays and lesbians in their best behavior. However, let me show you what really was going on there as our cameras again went behind the scenes to expose what the liberal news media dared not show the American people on the evening news.
Make no mistake about it! We will not stop until we have achieved our freedom, our justice, and our pursuit of happiness.
Do you understand, America, that 12% of the little boys and girls growing up today are going to be lesbians and gays, and they are not going to be called faggot and dyke and queer and sissy? We are going to save our children!
How long is it going to take before people get smart, educated people, not just people with no education? We're not talking about illiterate people. We're talking about senators and congressmen and the president.
Movement more than this gentleman that I am about to introduce, as well as being committed to gay and lesbian rights, as well as being committed to religious freedom. I believe that Troy Perry is one of the great religious international leaders in this world. The Reverend Troy Perry.
Introduce you to my lover. They tell us we shouldn't do this, but I want to tell you I believe it's time for us to show affection. They call that flaunting in America. I call it sharing.
President Clinton underestimated the American people. Let me show you what I mean. Our cameras filmed a staged candlelight vigil sponsored by the radical gay rights group called Queer Nation. This candlelight vigil was part of President Clinton's inaugural celebration and was used to bring media attention on the side of endorsing a new gay civil rights bill. Queer Nation told about the tragic story concerning the Navy man brutally murdered by a fellow military man.
Alan Schindler was a 22-year-old American patriot who about 5 years ago followed in his father's and grandfather's footsteps by enlisting into the Navy because he wanted to serve his country. But less than 3 months ago, Alan Schindler was brutally murdered by at least 2 of his shipmates because Schindler had taken the courageous step to come out of the closet as a gay man. On October 27, 1992, in a restroom in Japan, Alan was brutally murdered. More than 10 weeks ago, Alan Schindler had his head repeatedly smashed into a men's room sink until he had no head left. No one has been charged with murder.
It just shows all the injustice in the military and the cover-up. And if this was a straight man, they'd be going after the people who had done it a lot more vigorously. And I think just because he's a gay man, it's all put under the covers in the closet. And it's time to be known that these hate crimes are happening, and they need to be shown, and they need to be stopped.
Using the grief-stricken mother of the victim of this hate crime, Queer Nation effectively got the liberal media to hear their radical views.
I really don't know what to say. I know that my son was a very loving person. And I know that I fear for anyone that's in the military that's homosexual, that if anybody finds out, that they might be dead too. don't want any other mother to ever have to go through what I'm going through. My son's body could not even be recognized except by the tattoos on his arm. I can't understand how anyone could do that to another human being.
Now, I want you to know that I think this murder was terrible. I'm sure you feel the same way. The person who committed this crime should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. But here is how the gays and the liberals and the media took this tragic incident and then tried to turn it into a political issue to their advantage.
I'm asking that you join Queer Nation so that we can keep doing things like these candlelight vigils. We have to start a letter writing campaign. We have to do phone zaps against the military. And one of the most important things we have to do is hold President-elect Bill Clinton to his promise to sign an executive order to repeal the ban on allowing open gays and lesbians to serve in the military.
This government is supposed to protect and to serve, and yet it never protects and only serves to kill us. We must protect ourselves, and in the face of our never-ending deaths, we must rise up from this drug stupor of faceless hope, no longer lifting the open hand seeking succor, but with the closed fist striking first. We will protect ourselves, in force, with force, by force.
Just what did he mean when he said, by force? Listen as he continued spewing out his words of hate and revolution.
And what force shall be deemed reasonable when confronted with unreasoning death? Only absolute force can serve to protect us, and that is what we must use. No longer can we hold to hope and faith in the American dream. Dreams are a privilege reserved to those who can sleep protected in their beds. And we are without protection or privilege in this nation. We no longer fight for something so simple as our rights. We are fighting for our very lives.
We're here! We're queer! Get used to it! We're here! We're queer! Get used to it! We're here! We're queer! Get used to it! We're here! We're queer! And we're already in the military!
They can tell us that they're gay until the cows come home. Let me show you what I mean. Our cameras filmed a staged candlelight vigil sponsored by the radical gay rights group called Queer Nation. This candlelight vigil was part of President Clinton's inaugural celebration and was used to bring media attention on the side of endorsing a new gay civil rights bill. Queer Nation told about the tragic story concerning the Navy man brutally murdered by his fellow military men.
Alan Schindler was a 22-year-old American patriot who about 5 years ago followed in his father's and grandfather's footsteps by enlisting into the Navy because he wanted to serve his country. But less than 3 months ago, Alan Schindler was brutally murdered by at least 2 of his shipmates because Schindler had taken the courageous step to come out of the closet as a gay man. On October 27, 1992, in a restroom in Japan, Alan was brutally murdered.
More than 10 weeks ago, Alan Schindler had his head repeatedly smashed into a men's room sink until he had no head left. No one has been charged with murder.
It just shows all the injustice in the military and the cover-up. And if this was a straight man, they'd be going after the people who had done it a lot more vigorously. And I think just because he's a gay man, it's all put under the covers in the closet. And it's time to be known that these hate crimes are happening, and they need to be shown, and they need to be stopped.
Using the grief-stricken mother of the victim of this hate crime, Queer Nation effectively got the liberal media to hear their radical views.
I really don't know what to say. I know that my son was a very loving person. And I know that I fear for anyone that's in the military is homosexual. That if anybody finds out, that they might be dead too. My reason for doing this is because I don't want any other mother to ever have to go through what I'm going through. My son's body could not even be recognized except by the tattoos on his arm. I can't understand how anyone could do that to another human being.
Now, I want you to know that I think this murder was terrible. I'm sure you feel the same way. The person who committed this crime should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. But here is how the gays and the liberals and the media took this tragic incident and then tried to turn it into a political issue to their advantage.
I'm asking that you join Queer Nation so that we can keep doing things like these candlelight vigils. We have to start a letter-writing campaign. We have to do phone zaps against the military. And one of the most important things we have to do is hold President-elect Bill Clinton to his promise to sign an executive order to repeal the ban on allowing open gays and lesbians to serve in the military.
This government is supposed to protect and to serve, and yet it never protects and only serves to kill us. We must protect ourselves, and in the face of our never-ending deaths, we must rise up from this drug stupor of faceless hope, no longer lifting the open hand seeking succor, but with the closed fist striking first. We will protect ourselves, in force, with force, by force.
Just what did he mean when he said, by force? Listen as he continued spewing out his words of hate and revolution.
And what force shall be deemed reasonable when confronted with unreasoning death? Only absolute force can serve to protect us, and that is what we must use. No longer can we hold to hope and faith in the American dream. Dreams are a privilege reserved to those who can sleep protected in their beds. And we are without protection or privilege in this nation. We no longer fight for something so simple as our rights. We are fighting for our very lives.
We're here! We're queer! Get used to it! We're here! We're queer! Get used to it! We're here! We're queer! Get used to it! We're here! We're queer! And we're already in the military!
They can tell us that they're gay until the cows come home. But we Christians will never get used to it. We'll never get accustomed to it. We'll pray for their salvation. We'll try to reach them for Christ. But we'll never accept their vulgar lifestyle. The Bible tells us that in the eyes of God, this is sin, plain and simple. While our camera crews were in Washington during President Clinton's inauguration, they brought home some interesting footage concerning another radical group called NOW, the National Organization for Women. I often jokingly refer to them as the National Order of Witches. In the past, I have been criticized viciously by the liberal media in representing the NOW as nothing more than a group of frustrated lesbians who hate men. Well, the news media said that this is a respectable group of women who simply want equal rights. Well, let's see. Take a look at who these people really are. Our cameras don't lie. Pat Ireland, the president of NOW, is a lesbian. And I want you to listen to some of what these radical lesbians had to say.
We had a wonderful election in November, and I'm just exuberantly happy about it. And I'd like to just sort of summarize what we've got now. 'Twas the night before the inauguration, and all through the House there were more women in it and 6 in the Senate. Their stockings were hung and well coiffed was their hair, 'cause they'd been to the new ladies' room installed there. And Barb in her kerchief and George in his cap were bidding farewell, quickly trying to beat the rap. When out on the street I heard such a clatter, I turned on CNN to see what was the matter. Guess who was back on their old TV show? Why, it's host Larry King and King A. Tross Perot. We two kings of media are broadcasting wacko thoughts from afar. For our dollar we can holler to anywhere you are. Then next to my wondering eyes came the scene of a bus with Bill Clinton and his transition team, laden with gifts left so long on the shelf that I smiled when I saw them in spite of myself. Jobs, choice, health care, gays in the military, along with his wisest advisor, Miss Hillary. And I heard them exclaim as they drove into sight, Happy New Year to all and good riddance, far right.
We have got to go forward very, very aggressively now because with all of the victories that we've had this year, what we have also had is a tremendous influx in the power and the numbers and the organizations of the right wing. The fundamentalist right is probably more powerful out there in the grassroots than they ever have been. They have more money, more grassroots organization that none of us can match because it's based on mega churches that are funded from all kinds of sources. And we know we've got a terrific battle.
You've got that right, dear lady, or whatever you are. All of you are in for a terrific battle, not only from the so-called religious right, but I believe from all Americans who uphold the Judeo-Christian values upon which this nation was founded. I'm holding in my hands a copy of a House bill and the Senate version of that same bill, which will give homosexuals and lesbians radical civil rights. This homosexual and lesbian-sponsored legislation is endorsed by the President himself. And in case you don't believe that President Clinton has endorsed this radical legislation and has told the gay community of his support in person, listen, America, to what our cameras recorded during the Clinton inaugural gay and lesbian celebration.
We're here tonight on the eve of the inauguration of Bill Clinton at a time when there's a lot of hope in this country and a lot of hope right here in the city and a lot of joy. And what we have done with this vigil is to verbalize both the joy and the hope, but also to look back on the frustration and the darkness of the last 12 years and talk about where we've come. We're particularly highlighting tonight the whole area of lesbian and gay oppression and the hope that is to come, that Mr. Clinton is committed to doing things like ending the discrimination against lesbian and gay people in the military.
We believe in the new administration and we want to support it. We cannot stay home and let this go on without us.
It's our government now. Our government now. It's all the people's government now. Before it was just a small percentage. Now it's a large percentage of the U.S.
I think things are going to change. I really believe that he's going to do something about the military. He's going to end the ban against homosexuals in the military. And he's going to push for other things as far as gay rights. And I think Congress is going to follow.
We're hopeful. We believe that Bill Clinton is confident in his promises, but we know as a political organization and as an organization that has really been pushing for 25 years to improve the distribution of power in this country, to get equality and empowerment for women and people of racial and ethnic diversity. So we know from that no matter what a president-elect may have said in his campaign and what these wonderful congressional people have said in their campaigns that we've now elected, that we're the people who are going to make it happen. We're the people who have got to keep their proverbial feet to the fire, and that also is a part of what tonight was all about.
And it's certainly not appropriate for children. So parents, please use the utmost discretion when viewing this tape.
The March on Washington has been in the planning stages for just over 2 years, and at the time that the idea for this march was conceived, no one could have possibly predicted that we would have such a receptive administration and that the tide of the country would have changed.
You may not agree with our tactics. You may disapprove of our strategies. All we ask is that you acknowledge one simple point. It simply is a matter of justice. My husband and I thank you.
This march is marking the launching of a new era for the lesbian and gay civil rights movement. This march will be the beginning of the queer 90s.
What we do between consenting adults in the privacy of our own homes is nobody else's damn business.
And I think that this is going to be the era, beginning with this march, when in exponential numbers, gay and lesbian and bisexual Americans come out of the closet and come home to America.
They can't kill us off. The queers bash back, and if they shoot, we can shoot back. If they bash, we can bash back. We're not all lobbyists. We're not all people doing quilt panels and wearing red ribbons. We're angry people who are going to fight back and do whatever it takes to stay alive and get what we need to stay alive.
I would say from today on, there's no more heterosexuals, there's no more homosexuals, there's no straights, there's no gays, there's no lesbians, there's no blacks and there's no whites. It's all family. And this is who we are.
These guys are hot, okay?
My name is Bob Smith. I'm from San Francisco, California, and I'm a bomb-throwing fag. Peace. And you may use this wherever you want to use it.
I believe that April 25, 1993 is a day in America that will go down in infamy. On April 25th, 1993, and on the days prior to and even after, America's gay community gathered in Washington, D.C. by the hundreds of thousands. They claimed to have 1 million there. The official park estimate was 300,000 to 350,000. I sent 2 film crews, undercover and incognito, of course, to capture what was really happening at the march because I knew that there would be a cover-up by the national news media. And I was right, there was. What I saw was shocking, and I warn you now, please do not allow any young children to see what we are about to show you. It is important for you to know the truth about the homosexual and gay agenda for America, and what it will mean for America if they succeed in their mission. You need to know the truth so you can stand up now and help stop them from turning our beloved country into a modern-day Sodom and Gomorrah. The footage my crews brought back was frightening. It was as if Sodom and Gomorrah had stepped right out of the pages of the Bible. They were marching in our nation's capital. They said they came to celebrate the new openness to their cause. But they came also to demand radical gay rights, even special rights, to be accepted and radical legislation to be enacted. If you remember, during President Clinton's inauguration, just 100 days prior to the April 25th march, Mr. Clinton openly addressed the gay community by way of a giant television screen at the first ever official gay and lesbian inaugural gala ball. Yet this time, just listen to the positive comments the gay community had and made toward their new president.
Well, this event tonight here at Club Z in Washington is one of several events that have been organized by the lesbian and gay community to celebrate the inauguration of a friend.
To celebrate a change for the country and also a change for gays and lesbians who now have a chance to be part of a wider community.
I think he's going to bring everyone together and we won't feel as left out as we have before.
I think things can't help but get better than from what we had over the past 12 years because we have now a president for the first time ever saying that we belong to America.
Now listen to what this same community was now saying about President Clinton and his administration.
Bill Clinton during the campaign said, promise us this, promise us that. He's broken several of his promises. It's been 100 days and we are dying. We don't have time for Bill Clinton to, sit around and pet socks or whatever he's doing in the White House. Half the people at this March on Washington might not be here for another March on Washington because Bill Clinton is sitting on his butt in the White House. He has promised us a Manhattan Project on AIDS and he's doing absolutely nothing. We're here to demand a cure and we want it now.
President Clinton sent a letter to be read by California Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi, a longtime supporter of gay rights. she read it to the gay and lesbian marchers gathered there.
Welcome to Washington, D.C., your nation's capital. During my campaign and since my election, I have said that America does not have a person to waste. Today, I want you to know that I am still committed to that principle. I stand with you in the struggle for equality for all Americans, including gay men and lesbian Americans. In this great country, founded on the principle that all people are created equal, we must learn to put aside what divides us and focus on what we share. We all want the chance to excel in our work. We all want to be safe in our communities. We all want the support and acceptance of our family and friends. Last November, the American people sent a message to make government more accountable to all its citizens, regardless of race, class, gender, disability, or sexual orientation. I am proud of the strides we are making in that direction. The Pentagon has stopped asking recruits about their sexual orientation. And I have asked the Secretary of Defense to determine how to implement an executive order lifting the ban on gays and lesbians in the military by July 15th. My 1994 budget increases funding for AIDS research, and my economic plan will fully fund the Ryan White CARE Act. Soon I will announce a new AIDS coordinator to implement the recommendations of the AIDS Commission report. I met 9 days ago with leaders of the gay and lesbian community in the Oval Office at the White House. I am told this meeting marks the first time in history that the President of the United States has held such a meeting. In addition, members of my staff have been and will continue to be in regular communication with the gay and lesbian community. I still believe every American who works hard and plays by the rules ought to be a part of the national community. Let us work together to make this vision real. Thank you. Bill Clinton, President of the United States.
Though most of the politicians and even Hollywood celebrities were visibly absent from the march, mainly because of the heat the Christian community has been applying, there were still some notables there in the crowd who spoke out in favor of the gay movement. Here's a peek at some of those who were there and what they had to say.
Strong hands should prevail, how order should be quelled, and by this pattern not one of you should live an aged man, for other ruffians with self-same hand, self-reason and self-right would sharp on you.
What our movement for equality needs most, in my not so humble opinion, is for us to come out of the closet.
For Women is proud to be part of this great march for lesbian, gay, and bi rights at a time when our nation is embroiled in a great battle for civil rights.
My friends, by mobilizing today in such massive numbers, you are sending a powerful message to my colleagues and to all Americans that gay men and lesbians are a part of the American family. We see your courage. We hear your voice, feel your determination. And we pledge that this discrimination against you must end now, once and for all time.
To those from organized religion who would attempt to use the Word of God to legitimize homophobia, we say with one voice, get over it.
Everyone in our nation belongs here today. Robin Tyler called me about 3 months ago and asked me to be a part of this. I had no hesitation. In my heart, I said yes. The first person I told that I was marching was my father. He said to me, "But Sybil, they might think you're one." And I said, who cares?
Others who were there, but we did not film, were New York City Mayor Dinkins, the senator from Illinois, Carol Moseley Braun, Congressman Barney Frank, himself a self-avowed homosexual, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, who manages to get in every place he ought not to be. Only the cable network C-SPAN carried all the speakers at the march. It was a gross display of the real character of the homosexual and lesbian community gathered in Washington.
USA Today called me after the passage of Amendment 2 in Colorado. USA called me and said, what do you think of that? And I said, the religious right has just declared war on the gay and lesbian community, and we have nothing to do but to graciously accept. Work, working girl, wet your lips and make love to the camera. Turn to the left, now turn to the right. All right, Saturday, turn to the left, now turn to the right. All right,
Now, don't let the absence of politicians and Hollywood celebrities fool you. The majority of these people truly support the new radical gay rights agenda which the president wants to see adopted. We asked the gays in Washington what they see these rights to be.
We just don't think that we should lose our jobs and lose our places to live, and we think this is going to help change that.
Just trying to send a message that our relationships are just as loving, just as caring, just as committed, and just as valid as any heterosexual relationship. And we're doing it in front of the IRS building because we're trying to send a message that we would like the same, not special, the same rights that everyone else has.
Just equal rights, justice for all. We don't want anything special. We just want the same rights as everyone else in this country.
We've been together 7 years. A straight couple can be together for a month, file a blood test, get a marriage license, and they're married right away. After 7 years of living together in a loving, committed relationship, we have no rights. That our tax dollars that arrive here at the IRS building every week from our paychecks, our tax dollars pay for straight couples to be together. But I can't get this man recognized in health status and anything that I can get in my life. And we're choosing to do something within our lifetime to be legally committed.
I have many gay friends, and I think they deserve as much right as anybody else, you know, as far as military, as far as going to the bathroom, as far as anything. They deserve as much right as I do as being a straight person. So, yes, I do support it.
The national media never reported on the official homosexual platform. I want you to take a peek at some of the behind-the-scenes footage that our camera crews covered during the 300 different events planned around this march.
This event is kind of a drop-in for fairies who've come from all over the country to march. We'll be marching together as Radical Fairies Sunday. And there'll be other things. There'll be drumming circles and stuff going on in the city during the time. I practice basically a kind of European witchcraft mixed with Santeria Yoruba, African kind of background belief system. There is a group of neo-pagans, and I don't know if some associate themselves with fairies, some don't, but I know they're doing a very serious ritual. I think it's around tomorrow, which is casting a circle and drawing up kind of the gay dead host to come and join the march with us. So there's a very spiritual aspect to that.
The church, the state, hormones will decide my fate. The church, the state, hormones will decide my fate. The church, the state, hormones will decide my fate.
The drag queen gala was probably one of the most repulsive displays of perversion I have ever seen. Notice that young children were in attendance. are some more scenes you will never see reported by the liberal news media. Take a look at this behind-the-scenes view of what was promoted by the gay and lesbian community concerning a gay rights dance. That's gay rights, R-I-T-E-S, dance. And I warn you again that what you're about to see may be offensive to you, and I urge you to excuse any young children from the room right now. If you think that was horrible, I want you to see what was billed as a gay and lesbian youth dance. What you're about to see is extremely offensive, but this is the gay community's agenda for the children of America and your children.
Under 24 is what we're allowing into this dance here. We have, I think, 14, 15, 16, up to 24. Bisexual, whatever they choose to identify themselves as. A lot of them haven't come out yet, or they're starting to. It's whatever their particular choice of identification is.
Your sign says young, queer, and proud. How do your parents feel about it?
They don't like it. That's too bad.
Our cameras captured the pro-gay military rally held at the Pentagon. And what amazes me are the homosexual and lesbian claims that thousands of gays are now serving in the military. Yet over and over again, we see only the same faces, the same few spokespersons who came forward during Clinton's inauguration.
This issue is about the truth. It is not about whether gays and lesbians are serving the armed forces. This issue is about the fact that gays and lesbians have been serving their country for years, serving their country and dying for their country.
President Clinton said, "I want to invite you to the table. Yesterday, we were there to be served." Well, I think he went out for his just desserts.
That's the date of my discharge right there. 29 April 1987. 6 years this week. And since that day, my life has been consumed with those poor faction dykes who are getting kicked out every day. The ones who are serving time in brigs all over this country right now. The ones who are being beaten outside bars in little southern towns. Those are the ones I'm fighting for. Please fight for them.
And what happened at the Gay and Lesbian March in Washington on April 25th by showing only crowd shots and a few gays walking arm in arm or just holding hands innocently, instead of showing what really happened. The nudity, the open and often vile behavior, the bizarre, the radical, the decadent. No, they refuse to show America the truth because, and I must say this, Hollywood, Washington, the national media, the White House, have made a commitment to support a politically correct agenda, which means selling radical gay rights to America by covering the tragic and dirty and sordid truth and all their perversion, all of which is typical of the gay and lesbian community. Another new term constantly being used by the media is the word transgendered. Everyone's using it now. Bill Donahue made reference to this term when he addressed the gay community at the march. Now, you won't find the word transgendered in the dictionary. We asked the gays at the march on Washington just what does transgendered really mean? Here's what they had to say.
Transgender means man to woman or woman to man. Or no, I don't know. That's transsexual. I don't know now.
Transgender, well, what it means to me is it reaches beyond a gender classification. It's men relating to women and women relating to men in a way that, you know, binds us together through our living styles and our choices, and expressing that however they feel necessary.
Transgender is people that wish to explore their sensitivity of femininity and masculinity. Some of them know definitely which direction they want to go into, and others are just beginning their walk. That's transgenderism.
I wouldn't feel like an authority on giving a definition of that. Sorry.
I was really upset when I saw the next event which our camera crew covered. It was a so-called biblical self-defense workshop where gays and lesbians were taught by liberal, straight clergy how they may counteract verses of Scripture which speak clearly against their lifestyle, homosexuality. Listen to some of the perverted thinking, convoluted thinking, and psycho-babble of these liberal clergy.
The past year, as a campus minister at the University of Minnesota, I became very concerned with the misuse of Scripture to abuse and to condemn gay and lesbian and bisexual and transgender people. And as a straight minister, felt very ashamed that my Bible was being used this way. And so I came up with a biblical self-defense course where we learn about those passages that are most often used to condemn homosexuality, and we come to a new understanding about what the passages say, and also, I think, a good sense about God's concern for all people and love and grace, and that we're not called to live strictly by the law, but that we're called to live fully in grace and in love.
Well, it seems like a number of people who are gay or lesbian or bisexual have been criticized for a long period of time based on the belief by many that the Bible says, no, thou shalt, and all that sort of thing. However, when you look at the Bible, and of course there are many, many versions of the Bible, many translations, and also if you go beyond that and realize that what we read in English is not where it was written, you find out that really the original meanings may not be what we're understanding now at all. Furthermore, this is not several thousand years ago. This is 1993, so it's a totally different world we live in now.
I'm a pastor of an MCC church, and we stand for equality and freedom of all people. And we believe in Jesus Christ, and we're Christian, and we believe we should have the equal rights and equality as everybody else.
Okay, and the Bible says God created man, he created woman. Was a choice made somewhere along the line for man to be with man?
No, the Bible says that God created the earth creature in Hebrew. It wasn't no such word as man or woman. It says, Bible says God created Adam. Adam is earth creature. It was the church that turned around and made it man and woman so that they could tell people to go procreate. God created us all in the image of God, and that's the image of love, not in the image of man or in the image of woman.
You people aren't with the Jesus group yet.
No.
Well, why?
Jesus isn't even with the Jesus group.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I said Jesus isn't even with the Jesus group.
Why is that?
He's with us.
Jesus is with you.
He was probably gay. Had 12 boyfriends.
The largest of the organizations inside the gay and lesbian religious movement is that of the Universal Fellowship of the Metropolitan Community Churches. They're everywhere. The founder of this group is the Reverend Troy Perry. They claim to have a membership of 27,000. We did an investigative report on the founder and leader of this gay spiritual movement. Troy Perry says he began his vocation at the age of 13 and was licensed as a Baptist minister 2 years later. In 1959, he married his pastor's daughter. He became the father of 2 sons. Just look at what took place.
Dearly beloved, we gather together here to stand before our friends, the larger society, and the United States government to proclaim our committed relationships. We do not take this proclamation lightly, but reverently, discreetly, and soberly. We stand before our nation, our friends, because we wish to proclaim our love one to another. We stand here knowing that love makes a family. Nothing more, nothing less. Participants, is it your desire to take your vows of commitment at this time? If so, please respond, it is. For as much as each of these couples have declared their love one to another and have given tokens of their covenant each to the other and have done this willingly before their friends gathered here as well as the larger American community, we proclaim together our right as couples in hope that the day will come when not only our own community will recognize our relationships, but the laws of our countries also. Couples, you may kiss.
Now listen to the warped theological beliefs of these people and what they sincerely say they believe.
What do you think God thinks when he looks upon the homosexual lifestyle?
What do you mean by homosexual lifestyle?
Man and a woman for a woman.
To me, the essential ingredient in any human relationship is, does one person care for another? Now, I found that out the hard way, having been a widower for 10 years. It became very crystal clear to me that there's nothing more important to anybody than being number one and being loved by somebody else. That is absolutely critical. Now, if that person happens to be of the same sex and they still really care for each other, again, what's the problem? People are hung up on what we do with our genitals.
What I attempt to do is witness as a straight person, as a married woman who serves the church and loves all people, that God is inclusive of all people.
There were many gathered at the march who did not appreciate the religious right. When asked what they thought about Jerry Falwell, here's what they had to say.
Jerry Falwell? Nuts. Just plain nuts.
I think they're a threat to society in general. The conservative right, the active right, they're not doing anybody any good. Just the way it goes, whether it's gays or any other minority in this country, they seem to be against it.
The religious right refuses to recognize that gays and lesbians have families, we do have children, and we are people that worship God of our own understanding.
And the religious people are sitting around, you know, doing it with prostitutes and you know, scamming all the money from their religious people, and they have no moral value to judge anybody. As far as I'm concerned, I don't really care what they say.
My message to the Jerry Falwell types is that even God loves them too.
The Bible says in John, for whatever man says he loveth the Lord but hates his brother, that man is a liar. I direct this to the religious right, to the Jerry Falwells, to the Pat Robertsons, and to every other biblical Bible-thumping fundamentalist out there that says that, you know, you can't be gay and still get into heaven. You know, what Jesus said about homosexuality is, you know, on the back of this page. Absolutely nothing. Not a damn thing. He never said anything about homosexuality. He never said it was good or bad. Homosexuality is a genetic thing, and if it's genetic, then it's God.
The networks refuse to show you the truth concerning how far out, how radical these gays and lesbians really are. Here are some of the violent thoughts and views of the gay and lesbian community.
We've been dealing with this epidemic, with this Holocaust for 12 years. 12 years now. And we got promises out of Bill Clinton We harassed him on the campaign trail. We've been acting up for the last 5 or 6 years. We've been screaming, we've been lobbying, we've been doing everything, and still, 12 years into this, our needs, our lives are not being addressed. We are being exterminated by the thousands because we are women, because we are queers, because we are people of color, non-white people, poor people, and we're not going to take it anymore.
We're 21st century nuns, honey, and we're here for the same reason as anybody else. Because gay rights are human rights, and human rights in this country were guaranteed in 1787. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. And if I pursue my happiness in my high heels with another man in bed, that's my business.
The supremacist right, which seeks to redefine the very meaning of democracy. Language itself fails in this task, my friends, for to call our opponents the right states a profound untruth. They are wrong. They are wrong. They are wrong morally. They are wrong spiritually. And they are wrong politically.
They did not show you how weird, bizarre, and garish this community really is. Why didn't the national media show the typical scenes that our cameras could not miss? Men kissing men, women kissing women, nudity, men dressing up like women, the lewd dancing, the mass marriage ceremony of hundreds of homosexuals, the civil disobedience, and yes, even the arrest. Take a look at these radical gays who the day after the march sat in the street outside the Capitol building screaming obscenities and holding up traffic. The motorcycle police asked them to move. The Capitol police marched toward them, but they would not be moved. Finally, they had to be arrested and carted off in the paddy wagon. But did you see these scenes on the evening news? The answer is no. Why didn't you see this on network news? You didn't hear a word about this, nor did any other Americans. And yet these people stopped traffic. They were shouting obscenities. They were arrested. If these had been 10 anti-abortion protesters peacefully praying outside an abortion clinic, not blocking traffic, you can be sure you would have seen that on network news, and you better believe it would have been put in the most negative light possible. It would have made the headlines and even the evening news and all the networks. You and I must continue to make our voices heard. We must not be silent. We must write to our congressmen. We must remain informed on the gay and lesbian agenda and the movement. We must voice our opposition. And if you have not yet put your name on the following petition, please consider doing so by watching this and encouraging others to watch it as well. America is being bombarded by the homosexual agenda. We see the homosexual influence on television, in magazines, in our public schools, almost everywhere we turn.